Hey guys, my name is Loveless, and this time we are here with a Bakugou angst story. This one is called Bakugou is on the Streets. It's very angsty. I love it. It's enjoyable for me, at least. Not for Bakugou, not very much, but we're gonna have fun. So let's get straight into it. Bakugou runs up to his room and grabs his backpack. He grabs his coat, gets his trainers, and slams the door. He storms off with no idea where to go. He got to the park and sat on the bench. He knew one day this would happen. Ever since he was a kid, he knew he'd get kicked out. It's always been a risk. But although he's been prepared, he's still scared shitless. He looks through his bag. A few days worth of clothes, a charger, food, water bottles, aftershave, and money. He looks in the wallet. He has maybe 100 pounds. He sighs. The dorms are shut until 2 days' time. Then every weekend from then on. He's fucked. What is he supposed to do? He decides to say fuck it and sleep on the bench that night. The next morning, he wakes up as the sun rises. He pulls out his phone. 6 a.m. He needs to find something to do. He spent a good 2 hours just walking around. He found a library close to UA, but it isn't open until 8. So he walked around for a while and went back to it. What people didn't know is that Bakugou loved to read. He could get so immersed that he forgets to do anything else. So when he walks in and finds a library open, he sighs in relief. Not only does it have the distractions, it has plugs. He can put his charger in and a bathroom to freshen up, as well as a cheap vending machine and computers. He stepped in and smiled at the old lady at the desk. He goes straight to the bathroom and freshens up. He takes a look in the mirror. He looks a mess. He washes a little and changes his shirt. He sighs. It's the best he can do. He runs his hands through his hair and tidies it up. He grabs his backpack and walks back to the main part of the library. He goes to the action sections and looks for a book. He finds a series and takes them to the table. He plugs his phone in to charge and spends all day reading, forgetting to eat. Eventually, the lady taps him on the shoulder. It's nearly 6, dear. She smiles. We're closing soon, but I can always set you up with a card so you can take them out for 2 weeks at a time. Yeah. He smiles back. She leads him to the desk. I just need your name and a home address. Reluctantly, he gives it to her. The address is only for fees if you hand a book in late. I doubt we'll use it. He nods, and she passes him a green card. She scans the book and then the card before handing them back to him. I'll see you when I see you, she smiles. He just waves and walks back to the park. He finds a little building nearby. It got toilets and electricity. It's just like a community hall. It's always open, as there is nothing to steal. He sighs in relief and walks in, finding it empty. He dumps his bag and sits in the corner. He plugs his phone in and sees the group chat going wild. Baku Squad. Kaminari. I'm so glad we got a week off. Kirishima. Bro, we're going back in 2 days. You're a little late with that. Kaminari. Shush. But, I feel so calm. I've caught up on sleep and I feel great. Kirishima. I know that feeling. It's so calming when you have the week to chill. Bakugou scoffs as he reads that. He's having one of the worst weeks of his life. The worst week of his life. First, he's beaten until he can't walk for 2 days. Later, he's homeless. Kirishima. At Sero, at Mina, at Bakugou. How's your weekend going? Mina. It's great. I feel well rested for once. I didn't realize how much I missed my family. Sero. I mean, it's a bit iffy, 'cause I haven't been home in ages. We're fighting a little bit, but it's mostly good. Bakugou wants to laugh. That his definition of iffy. His iffy is only a few small bruises from his mother. He's not gonna say he's not valid or whatever the fuck. He just finds it funny. Aw, I hope it works itself out. Bakugou. It's fucking chill. Not like a lot has fucking happened. Kirishima, that's fair. I mean, it's been 5 days. What's gonna happen? Mina, you're gonna get kicked out in 5 days. Kirishima, that would fucking suck. Laugh my fucking ass off. Bakugou, no shit it would. He signs off and decides to read for a little. He spends another hour reading and realizing that he's forgotten to eat. He looks in his bag and pulls out a protein bar and some water. He eats it before trying to sleep. He wakes up realizing that he has to go to school the next day, so he's got to plan it carefully. It's about half an hour walk. If he finds a way to wash his hair and almost take a shower, he'll be fine. He brushes it off for now, decides to continue reading. Because what else does he have to do? After an hour, he realizes he needs to eat something. He walks to the corner shop and buys a few protein bars and some fruits. He puts them in the bag for later and walks back. Bakugou starts to get hungry and looks at the bag. He finds a bit of fruit, some veg, and another protein bar. He'll eat the bar now, have the veg before he sleeps, and the fruit in the morning. He can eat more when he gets to the dorms. He pulls out the notes on his phone. Checklist for when the dorm is shut. Clothes, waterproof. Food, 2 fucking days worth at least. Breakfast and dinner at least. Stuff to freshen up. Money. Blanket so I don't fucking freeze. He needs to find a job, he remembers. He pushes it to the back of his mind. He doesn't need to buy anything. He'll be fine. He'll just use the generic soap and shampoo at the school. And if need be, he can refill the bottles with some of the shit from there. It's not like he has much of a choice. He rests his head on the wall and sighs. He's been kicked out overnight before, but now he can't even go home. He gets a message from his mom. Hag, we're getting rid of your shit. You have today to get what you need. Everything left will be trashed. You know where the spare key is and what to do. Take anything from the kitchen and your room. Touch anything else and you're fucking dead. Your father and I are out until 10 p.m. Bakugou sighs in relief. He can stock up. He packs his stuff and basically runs to his house. He unlocks the door and smiles. It's quiet. He runs up to his room. Everyone else took it, so it'll be weird if he came back without it. He pulled it out and empties it fully. Most are at his dorm anyway. He shoves in money, aftershave, painkillers. He adds a knife because he's going to be on the fucking streets and he may have a quirk, but it's still dangerous. He gives in and adds a couple keepsakes. He has a trophy from a boxing match when he was younger, a few ornaments from various dead family members who cared for him. Lastly, he adds a sketchbook with a small pencil case. It has pencils, fine liners, a few color pencils, a sharpener, a few colored pens, and a small watercolor set. He'll never admit it, but he loves to draw. He closes the suitcase and walks to the kitchen. He pulls out a plastic bag and wraps the ornaments in so they don't break. He then adds in some tubes to put food in. Some utensils, some mugs, also wrapped in bags, and a thermos. They said he can take whatever, so he fully intends to follow through on that. He checks the time, 6 p.m. He starts walking back to the community hall and smiles when he sees that it's empty. He sleeps and set his alarm for 6 a.m. It goes off and he grunts. He freshens up, washing his hair in the sink and changing his clothes. He tames his hair a little, but he has a brush at UA, so he doesn't bother taking one. He eats the fruits and sit down. He checks the time, 7 a.m. They open at 7:15, so he decides to start walking. Thank fuck for stamina training. He managed to walk there, but carting the suitcase around was annoying as hell. He get there before most people. He just sees Todoroki and Sue there. He wouldn't normally interact, so he doesn't even bother trying. He gets to his room and starts unpacking everything. Instead of the room looking bare, it looks somewhat like a room now, because it's the only one he has now. On his desk, he got all the ornaments arranged. He got a few photos and puts them on the wall. None of them of his parents, just his cousins and aunties and uncles, the ones that were nice to him. Unfortunately, his grandparents died, but they were the nicest, so he has many photos of them. His other family members moved away, so they don't speak much anymore. The photos go all inside his wardrobe. They stick to the doors. He's not embarrassed, but he preferred them not to be shown. Or maybe he was a little embarrassed. They didn't have frames, so they're easy to stick down. Once he's done, he pulls out his sketchbook and pencil case in a drawer and shuts it. He puts the library book in there as well. He decides on making a drawer just for the stuff he needs to take on the weekends. He puts the tubes, the thermostat, and the utensils in there. Before adding in the soap, aftershave, shampoo, he shoves it in and decides to ignore it until the weekend. He unpacks the rest of his clothes and sighs. He lays on the bed. He's got a bed for the first time in a few days. When he finishes, it's almost 11. Most people have gotten back by now. He starts to drift off when a knock at his door pulls him back into reality. He sighs and walks over, opening the door to find Kirishima. Of course it's you, he sighs. What does that mean? Fucking nothing, he mutters. He steps aside to let him in. He smiles brightly and he does just that. Bakugou, your room, you got stuff in it now. He jumps and looks at the ornaments on his desk and one photo he kept out. It was a family reunion. It was the last photo he had of his cousins and his grandma. No shit. I love these. Kirishima doesn't touch them, but looks at the ornaments. There are a few gold people, a few bear ornaments, and even a Christmas tree ornament. Then he stood up. They're just some things I've got from the rest of the fucking family. So I thought since I'm here most of the time, I might as well have them here. He lies. That makes sense. He stands back up and nudges him. Didn't know you were so sentimental. There's a lot of shit you don't know about me, hair for brains. Kirishima simply crosses his arms. I guess. But hey, we're gonna have a movie night tonight. Everyone in my room. We thought it'd be nice to talk about the weekend and just chill watching movies. Do I have to fucking come? Yes, Kirishima says with a straight face. Fuck. Okay. He rubs his temples. He just wants fucking sleep. He arrives to the movie night fucking exhausted. He didn't bother with a shirt. He just put on some sweats. They've all seen each other topless, and most of them naked, so they really don't care. Bro, you look exhausted, Kaminari laughs. That's because I am, shithead. Fair, fair. He puts his hands up in surrender. So, you might fall asleep on one of us then? Mina raises her eyebrow. It's fucking likely. He sighs and sits down. Kirishima and Mina sit next to him. Hey, that's not fair. I wanted to sit next to Blasty. Kaminari pouts. Fucking hell. He puts his hand on his face to see Kaminari still pouting. Just fucking lay across me if you're gonna be that pissy. He jokes. Oh, hell yeah. He does just that. No, I didn't. For fuck's sake. He leans his head back. They ended up watching a horror movie trying to keep Bakugou awake. Turns out he can sleep through fucking anything. How is Blasty still asleep? Mina laughs. His week must have been busy, Sarah laughs. Nah, he said he was with his parents the whole time. Well, parents are pretty exhausting, aren't they? Kirishima adds in. True, true. Bakugou opens his eyes but quickly closes them. He doesn't want them to know that he's awake, so he pretends to still be asleep. He shuffles closer to Kirishima and rests his head on his shoulder. He feels the tension rise as he moves, but it falls when they see he's still asleep. Aww, Mina coos. He's so cute. Bakugou is too tired to react, so he just listens to the conversation. Anyway, how did it go with your parents? Kirishima asks Sarah. Shit. It was so bad. I told them I was gay, and they were like, fuck no. They straight up denied it and said it was a phase. Bakugou would have scoffed if he had the energy. His parents beat him until he was in the hospital when they found out. Then, when he brought it up again recently, he was beaten and kicked out. Shit. His ass. He'd rather his parents had just denied it. Aw. Shit, bro. Kirishima said. At least you're not kicked out. He smiles. I fucking might be. Sero puts his head in his hands. Bakugou decides to say something. It's bullshit when they say that because he knows all their parents. I doubt it, he mumbles. What? I met your parents, Tapeface. They may deny you being gay, but the way you talk about them and see how they act, they won't fucking kick you out. They love you too much for that. Give them fucking time to accept the news. Then, if they're still assholes, then fuck them. You don't need them. Bakugou still has his eyes shut. Although he won't admit it, he's fucking jealous. He would love to have his parents like any of these fuckers. Aw, Baku babe. Mina ruffles his hair. He tiredly seats it away and shuffles closer to Kirishima again. I guess you're right. Sero smiles. Thanks, bro. He just gets a grunt in response. For a few months, his plan works. He spent the week at the dorms and spends his weekends in the community hall. He checks out books at the library, and the lady knows him pretty well by now. He spends a lot of time talking to her. He makes a lot of food on Friday. The excuse is that it's for his family, and nobody questions it anymore. He's got a nice rhythm going. Of course, he'd rather be in a house, but he can't do anything about it, so he gets going. Of course, there are a few fights, but the streets aren't safe, so he expected it. People around him have noticed the change. He's tired a lot more of the time. He's getting in fights too often. He's more irritable. Worst of all, he starts eating less. And some people swear he's heard him crying during the night, mainly Kirishima. They bring it up probably too often, but can you blame them? Their best friend looks on the verge of death and won't tell them anything. Just a quick fuck off, and he walks off. This week they had the week off. The break is nearly over and he does everything as usual and goes to sleep in the hall. He chucks his bag down and then goes to sit. He feels arms wrapped around him as he gets pulled back. So you're new around here, huh? One guy stepped out of the shadows. Bakugou tries to explode him, but nothing happens. Nice try. He can neutralize quirks just by touching the person. Fuck! You've been a real pain, another one stepped out. We've been selling shit around here for months, but recently, every weekend, you've been here, and that's not okay. I wonder what everyone would say if they found out the 1A's precious students is actually homeless, huh? Weeks in the dorms, then homeless every break and weekend? Shut the fuck up, Bakugou growls. That's not very nice. One of them grabs his face. Bakugou spits in his face. The guy lets go and punches him. He wipes the spit off. Bakugou spits out blood and looks at him. Go to hell. The guy shrugs. We aren't going to hurt you too bad. Guess we need to teach you a lesson. They punched and kicked him until he falls to the floor. If we find you back here again after tomorrow, the guy holding up a knife, well, you won't be getting off so easy. Bakugou lays there for a few minutes and finally regains enough strength to move. He grabs his stuff and walks to the bathroom. He looks in the mirror. His face is bruised and bleeding. He tackles that first. He stops the bleeding and cleans up dry blood. It's not much better, but it's better. He then looks at the rest of his body. He's not bleeding, but it's achy, and he knows it's going to bruise if it hasn't already. He's had worse, so he just decides what to do next. He pulls out a phone and sighs. He has only one option. He doesn't know what's worse, admitting to Aizawa he needs help, or admitting that he's been homeless for months. He decided not to mention that last bit for a while. He looked at Aizawa's number and grimaces. Fuck it. He calls the number and waits for an answer. Aizawa sits at his home with his husband when his phone rings. He sighs and reaches for it. It's a number he's never seen before. He just shrugged at Mike before answering it. Hello? He asks. Nothing. Who's there? He growls in annoyance. I'll hang up. Wait! A voice finally speaks. He recognizes it. Bakugou? He acts shocked. Hisashi turns to look at him. He shrugs. You... Fuck. You gave us this number in case we were in trouble, right? Yes, I did. Aizawa grows more anxious by the second. The fact that Bakugou is calling means something bad must have happened. Well, I'm kind of in a fucky situation. What happened? He stands. Never mind. Where are you? Do you need me to pick you up? Fuck. Yeah. Aizawa hears how hard it is for the boy to ask for help. Okay, where are you? He explains as Aizawa hangs up and puts on his coat. What happened? Hisashi voices his concern. I'm not sure, but he needs me to pick him up, and he asks for help, so something has happened. Update me when you get back. Make sure he's safe. Will do. Will do. Mike kisses him on the forehead and Aizawa gets in the car. He drives until he gets to the park. He walks out cautiously and sees a familiar ash blonde on a bench with a bag. Bakugou? He asks. Yeah. He stands and grabs his bag, still looking down. Can you look at me? Aizawa asked. The boy sighed and looked him dead in the eyes. What the fuck happened? The streets aren't a safe place, he shrugged. I'm taking you home. Where do you live? I thought UA was shut for the weekends. Bakugou laughed bitterly. Aizawa looked at him confused. Bakugou, your parents' house. What's the address? I'm not allowed back there, he sighs. What? I got kicked out, which is why I'm on the streets, he explains. Okay, get in the fucking car. You're coming to mine, and when you get there, you're explaining everything. Fuck it, fine. I need to get somewhere that isn't here. Bakugou rubs his temples. Aizawa looks at the boy. He looks so different. Usually he's so strong, so commanding, but right now, he looks exhausted. He's beaten, and Aizawa wants to protect him. The car ride was silent. Aizawa sees Bakugou nearly falling asleep. When the car stops, Bakugou opens his eyes and follows Aizawa in. Mike is quickly there, and Bakugou smiles. Fuck yeah! Most of the class owed me $10. What was that? Aizawa looked at him. Most of the class owes me $10. They bet you were single, but you two weren't sneaky. The rings you wear is a necklace, and you basically eye fuck each other whenever you're not speaking. But somehow only me and Shitty Hair caught on. So we're gonna be rich when you two want to tell him. When we want to tell him? Mike looked at him. No shit. I may be making the bets, but I ain't gonna say shit if you don't want me to. I'm not a complete asshole. He shrugs. I take it back. Your whole class is annoying, apart from this one. Mike laughs. Fuck yeah. Bakugou smirks. You think you're sneaky. I know you're changing the subject. Aizawa glares. It fucking worked. For fuck's... Yamada, can you make something for him? Sure thing. Pasta's good? He asked. I don't need anything, Bakugou mumbled. When did you last eat? I had an apple this morning, and I still have some stuff left for the evening and tomorrow. Bakugou looks down, and he doesn't see the worried looks between the two heroes. Sit the fuck down. You're eating, and then you can explain, Aizawa says strictly. For fuck's sake, fine. Bakugou takes off his shoes and his jacket. Mike takes a proper look at the boy. He sees his face obviously messed up, but he sees a few bruises on his arms, and he noticed the limp as he walks. He frowns, but he gets to work cooking for the boy. He doesn't know what's wrong, but knows it's something big. When Bakugou gets the food, he's almost fucking crying. He hasn't had a proper meal in a week, and he hasn't had someone make him a meal in months, maybe years, if he thinks about it. He doesn't move for a minute. Thank you, he says quietly, and tries to eat properly as possible, even though that he's fucking hungry as shit. When he finishes, Mike smiles at him and takes the plate away. He walks back and sits next to Aizawa. Bakugou, what's going on? Katsuki. What? I'm not a Bakugou anymore. What do you mean? Mike looks at him. 6 months ago, I got kicked out during the week the dorms were being fixed. I got my stuff and I was on the streets until the dorms reopened. And since then, I've been living in a community hall every weekend and holiday. Oh my god. Mike gasped. 6 months? 6 months? Aizawa growls. But, Katsuki, we could have helped you. Your friends would have been happy to help you. I don't need help. It was my own shitty fault anyway. How? Mike challenges. I did shit on a test. I forgot to study. I didn't listen to her. And to top it off, I was fucking gay. He explains, head in his hands. I was a fucking bully and she had enough. So when hitting me wasn't enough for a punishment, she fucking disowned me. What the fuck? Aizawa speaks their thoughts. First thing, you're not living on the streets anymore. I can't stay there anyway. The dudes got pissed that I kept staring away their customers, so they said that they'll kill me if I come back, which is the only reason why I'm telling you this shit. Funky idea, Mike starts. What if we take you in? What? Aizawa and Katsuki looked at him. Think about it. This way, you don't have to be on the streets and it'll be easier. You'll only be here during weekends and breaks. Fuck it. Aizawa shrugs. Why not? I don't have anywhere else to go. Good. We have a guest bedroom we can use as yours. 6 months later. As much as Katsuki and Aizawa would hate to admit it, they've grown close. They can't imagine not living with each other. They've grown closer in class as well. Nobody has mentioned it, but they all notice. The joking between the two and Mike, people have noticed the change in Katsuki as well. He smiles more and is calmer. Whatever happened, they know it's over. And whilst it hurts he didn't say anything, they're glad that he's okay now. It's Friday, and Aizawa and Katsuki are talking after training has ended. Don't forget your cooking tomorrow, Aizawa teases him. I fucking know. Just checking. Shut it. Katsuki laughs and pushes him a little. Hey! Aizawa laughs as well. They don't see the class walk up to them. They just decide to stop and listen. Finally getting some answers they hoped. At least I can fucking cook. Hey, I haven't had the time to learn. There's always time to learn. I would have guessed Hazashi tried to teach you. He has. They walk back to the classroom for English. The class followed a little bit behind. And he gave up after 2 days. Mike puts his arm around both of them. He can't be that bad, Katsuki laughs. Cat. Mike's look him dead in the eyes. He set fires multiple times in one night. Then proceeds to break the toaster the next morning. Aizawa covers his face. Katsuki bursts out laughing. Don't tell him that, Aizawa groans. So that's why you don't cook. Not that he doesn't, he's not allowed to, Mike laughs. The family laughs and Aizawa kisses Mike quickly. Good luck. Why? Mike eyes him suspiciously. We just had hero training and it fucking sucked. Katsuki explains. Ah, Aizawa sighs. Babe, please go easier on them when you have them before I do. Never. That's why I push them harder, babe. Bitch. Whore. Listen, you're both little whore-ass bitches. Can we move on? Katsuki sighs. The couple just laughed. Yeah. Aizawa kisses Mike's forehead and ruffles Katsuki's hair. See you tomorrow morning. Bye. Katsuki says, telling him to leave. Aizawa flips him off and Katsuki does the same. Aizawa turns the corner to find the class and freezes. Shit. We didn't hear anything, Mina tries. Just fucking come with me, he sighs, and they follow him back to the classroom. He knocks. Babe? Mike looks at him and sees the class behind him. Katsuki doesn't even look up. Dad, you were literally here 2 minutes ago. Katsuki is still reading his book. Not exactly. He looks up. Mike and Katsuki freeze. Shit. Katsuki swears. What the fuck is going on? Kaminari speaks up. Mike awkwardly laughs. Nothing. Papa, that's not gonna fucking work. Katsuki slams his head on his desk. Worth a try, he shrugs. No, it wasn't. Both Katsuki and Aizawa says, "Well, Kat, you can explain." Aizawa takes a seat. "You little fucking bitch. Hey, this is just so I don't say something you don't want me to." Aizawa says innocently. It's definitely not because he doesn't want to explain. Fuck, that's fair. He crosses his arms and stands at the front of the class. "Are you just gonna stand there?" Or he gestured to the room. They laughed and walked in. "Okay, well, simply, my parents were shitty and kicked me out. 11 months ago now." He looks at Hazashi and Aizawa to confirm. "Yeah, it's nearly 12, Aizawa confirms. The class just widened their eyes as they hear him speak so casually about it. "Cool. Anyway, this was when the dorms were being rebuilt, a few days before they reopened. So the fact that you had more of your stuff," Kirishima thinks. "Yeah, that's because it was the only room I had, so I had to move most of my stuff." The class looked in shock. "Wait, hold on." Ida speaks up. "How long were you kicked out for?" 6 months, before I had to call Aizawa." "Bakugou." Ida walks closer. "Where did you spend your weekends and holidays?" The class looked at him, hoping it's not what they think. He sighs. "I was on the streets." They all gasp. "I found a community hall to sleep. The library occupied most of my days. I was freshening up in the bathrooms. I managed to get by with the food I brought from the dorms. It wasn't easy. The streets aren't safe, so there were times I got into fights." "The days you came back with bruises." "Yep, so it was tough. But I was luckier than most. I met so many others who didn't have anything like the dorms, so I knew that as long as I had to go back to the dorms, I was safe. Until..." He sighs. Kirishima steps closer. "Until..." he prompted. "Until it wasn't safe. One break 6 months ago, I got in a little trouble. Some druggies recognized me from the school festival and been keeping their eye on me. And eventually, they said that I was getting in their way of their sales. One of their quirks can remove others by touch, and there was 4 or 5 of them. So they beat me and said if I didn't leave, they'll basically kill me. So I had to call these 2, and I started living with them, and fuck. They're basically my parents, hence the dad shit." "Holy shit." Kirishima runs over to hug him. "Dude, you should have told us. I would have let you stay around mine as long as you needed." "Same here," his friends agreed. "Told you," Mike chimed in. "You're cooking your own dinner tomorrow." "No, wait, Kat!" Mike whines. They're all laughing, and Katsuki feels lighter. "Also, please don't call me Bakugou anymore. Katsuki, Kat, whatever the fuck you want, just not that. I don't want to remember my parents any more than I need to." They all nodded and continued with the English lesson. "Another thing," Katsuki speaks up. "I believe most of you owe me money." He smirks. "Wait, why?" "The bet." Kaminari realizes. "Shit." Jiro shouts. "To be fair, I bet this before I started living with them, so hand over your money, cowards." Reluctantly, 3/4 of the class gave Bakugou 10s. Everything continued as usual, the only difference being the change in name and Katsuki being a little more clingier to his friends, which no one points out, only his dad's, but only teases him. They always somehow managed to pair him up with Kirishima. Funny coincidence that. Yay, I got to the end of this. Holy shit, holy shit. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm done celebrating. So I have some good news for everybody. So I am on vacation with my job. It's a surprise vacation because I thought I was not on vacation until Wednesday. But no. So right now it's Monday, when I found this out, and I actually ended up working like for an hour when I didn't supposed to. So, my stupid ass. But now I'm able to actually use like all my time for either drawing or YouTube.
So it's like great. So I'll be pumping out YouTube content like a lot. So be prepared for that. I know that everyone would love that. And I love that I got these new subscribers. It's like shocking because I've like spent a whole week of not doing anything with YouTube. So yeah. So welcome. And of course, if you want to hear more of this and my rambles at the end and beginning sometimes, you know what to do.